Grab your cape and cowl, folks, because today we're covering the entirety of Batman the Animated Series. Debuting in 1992, this show is an absolute banger, packed with stunning visuals and more mature storytelling, meaning whether you're a kid or an adult, this series has got something for you. But before we start saving Gotham, let's have a look at the main character of the series. First up, we have our main character and protagonist, Bruce Wayne, aka Batman, who's a millionaire playboy and a part-time vigilante working as a beacon of justice in Gotham City. Next up, we've got Batman's arch-enemy and Gotham's worst nightmare, the Joker.
That's my cue!
The Joker just loves to terrorize Gotham City, but what he enjoys the most is the thrill he gets from making fun of Batman. To put it simply, without the Joker, there's no Batman. And how can we forget Dick Grayson, also known as Robin, who is Batman's sidekick? After his parents passed away in a tragic accident, Batman took custody of him and gave him the new life of a superhero. Despite being in Batman's shadow, our boy manages to show what he's really capable of. Followed by that, we've got the most stressed man in Gotham, Jim Gordon, the commissioner of Gotham City. He's a good friend of our hero Batman and is the boss of the police department. Finally, we've got Alfred Pennyworth, who's not just a butler, but an entire one-man support system. He's Batman's assistant, who takes care of the manor and the Batcave, and is the unsung hero who's armed with nothing but a feather duster and his dry humor. So without further ado, let's get started with episode 1 of season 1, On Leather Wings. The episode starts with a police blimp on duty flying over the skies of Gotham City. The pilot spots a suspicious bat-like creature flying past the window, but the officer dismisses it, saying that he's just dreaming. As the blimp passes, we see the shadow of a huge creature flying past the buildings. Meanwhile, in Phoenix Pharmaceuticals, there's a guard inside who's trying his best to be the next radio star with his mini tape recorder. I mean, we've all got dreams, but his 15 minutes of fame gets cut short when he hears a crashing sound. He goes to check it out, only to get tossed out of the window.
Get away!
The next day, the big shots of Gotham, Commissioner Gordon, Mayor Hill, and Harvey Dent, have a meeting about catching their prime suspect, Batman. But Detective Bullock, who's eager to play the hero, asks for a special task force to bring down the Dark Knight.
Your Honor, any nutcase that dresses up like a bat sooner or later is gonna snap.
Listen, it's just not Batman's M.O.
On the other side of the coin, our hero Batman feels like he's been set up and decides to take matters into his own hands. He sneaks into Phoenix Pharmaceuticals and starts investigating the crime scene, finding some footprints, a recorder, and some strange hair.
Come here, you.
He's back!
I'll call the police.
But before he can make his escape, Bullock and his men show up. He makes a daring escape, but not before causing an explosion and leaving one of Bullock's men a bit shaken up. Okay, a lot shaken up.
Tear gas?
We'll smoke 'em out.
The next day, Bruce Wayne visits the Gotham Zoo's bat exhibit and meets Dr. March, his daughter Francine, and her husband Kirk Langstrom. He asks the doctor to identify the hair, which he found, and also plays them a recording of strange bat sounds that they failed to identify. Back in the Batcave, Batman receives a call from the doc, who says that it's just regular bat sounds. However, he finds out that the doctor is actually lying, and heads to the laboratory to check it out himself. Turns out, the strange creature was Kirk Langstrom himself, who has created a new serum to create part man and a part bat hybrid. And who better of a first test subject than himself? Langstrom transforms into Man-Bat and starts attacking Batman. Where you arrange Bat and Man matters, folks. As Francine walks in, Kirk flies off with Batman using the grappling hook. They crash into the mini air balloon and have an epic mid-air fight, before good old Bats manages to knock Kirk out. But instead of letting the police catch them, Batman grabs Kirk and disappears. He takes the unconscious Kirk to the Batcave and presses some buttons to create the antidote. With the chemical out of his body, he heads back to the zoo and hands over Kirk to his wife Francine, hoping that he just stays normal. Christmas with the Joker. So it's Christmas Eve, and even Arkham Asylum is glowing with lights and joy. The inmates are decorating the halls, singing carols, while the Joker gets the honor of topping the tree. But surprise, surprise, the ornament is a rocket, and off he goes laughing and singing like a maniac into the night sky.
Jingle bells, Batman smelt, Robin laid an egg. The Batmobile lost the wheel and the Joker.
Meanwhile, Robin tries to convince Batman to chill for once in a while. After all, it is Christmas. But Batman refuses, saying that they've got to patrol Gotham City. In the end, they strike a deal that if they patrol and don't find Joker, they'll watch It's a Wonderful Life. They start doing their patrol work, and it seems like Gotham is surprisingly peaceful today. But Batman, being Batman, almost ruins a guy's good work as he mistakes the man to be a robber. They head back to Wayne Manor, and our boys settle in for some quality TV. But just before they manage to settle down, the clown prince of crime pops up on the screen.
It's a Wonderful Life will not be seen this year. In its place is the following. Joker here.
He's hijacked the airwaves for his own Christmas special and got hostages. Gordon, Summer Gleason, and Bullock as he threatens to finish them off if Batman doesn't find them by midnight. Batman and Robin rush to find the Joker in their Batmobile, and as a side quest, Joker blows a bridge with an incoming train right on the horizon. Thankfully, our boys arrive on time and save the passengers, but the Joker's just getting started.
Jingle bells, Batman smells rotten.
They chase his signal to Mount Gotham, only to find a booby-trapped observatory. After some fancy footwork and a lot of explosions, they figure out Joker's at the old Tafco toy factory.
Oh no! Our cannon seems to be out of control. Gotham City could be in serious danger.
At the factory, they face giant toy soldiers and planes that start attacking our heroes. But the duo finish them off very quickly and get ready to face off with the Joker. Surprisingly, Joker shows up and threatens to put the hostages into burning lava if Batman doesn't accept and open his Christmas present. So, with no other option, he agrees, only to get face-pied. After his prank, Joker cuts the hostages' rope, but Batman quickly catches them and saves the day.
Merry Christmas, Joker.
Bah, humbug.
Back in the manor, Bruce and Dick finish watching It's a Wonderful Life, with Bruce admitting that it does have its moments. As for the Joker, he's put back in jail, as he cackles like a madman, waiting for his next opportunity. Episode 3, Nothing to Fear, starts off with a book signing event at Gotham University, where a lot of people have gathered to do some good old charity. Instead of talking about literature, everyone is gossiping about the recent crimes in the city. That's when we meet Dr. Long, a professor of Gotham University who decides to lambaste Bruce by basically calling him useless and a disgrace to his father. Oy.
Well, I guess he'd be pleased. Wayne Industries is more prosperous than ever.
Pleased? When your father was alive, Wayne was a name that commanded great respect.
But before he can drown in depression, Bruce spots a helicopter landing on the university bank. And out comes the bad guy of this episode, Scarecrow, who along with his goons jump in to bring down the bank. However, Batman swoops in on time, only to get sprayed with fear gas. Thankfully, Batman came prepared with a gas mask, but still manages to get taken down after being hit by a dart. From there, he starts getting hallucinations about his dad telling him he's a failure, which traumatizes him. With the room on fire, Scarecrow makes a run for his life, leaving Batman behind.
What hidden terror keeps the Batman awake at night?
Meanwhile, back in his hideout, Scarecrow starts ranting about why he's taking revenge on the university. He reveals how they fired him for experimenting on people to study how fear works, and is pissed that he was thrown out for that. I mean, that's not exactly a great idea. You threw ethics out the window, man.
Even as a boy, I loved to frighten things. People, animals, it was all the same. I became obsessed with fear's crippling power.
As Bruce fights his hallucinations, Scarecrow crashes at the Gotham University Museum and kidnaps Dr. Long to show how fear works.
What's happening?
After an airborne chase, Batman confronts his fears with the most epic motivational pep talk ever.
I am vengeance. I am the night. I am Batman.
That line is really good. Finally, after exorcising his demons, he manages to bring down the blimp, or air balloon, and saves Dr. Long. In the end, Scarecrow gets a taste of his own medicine, and Bats brings him to the cops. The episode ends with Bruce leaving flowers at his parents' grave, giving himself closure after all the nightmares that he went through. The last laugh. It's April Fool's Day in Gotham, and the Joker decided to take the whole fool thing way too literally. The episode kicks off with a barge carrying a huge pile of trash, spewing green gas that makes people laugh frantically. Meanwhile, Bruce is having a rough morning as he cuts himself while shaving, but Alfred tries to cheer him up with an April Fool's joke. There you go. The assistant that everybody needs.
What's the deal, Alfred?
I said I drew you a bath, sir.
He heads to the shower and hears the news that people have started to laugh like maniacs, and it doesn't take much time for Bats to figure out who is behind this. Back in the city, the Joker and his gang of lunatics are out shopping. And by shopping, I mean robbing everybody while they're too busy giggling. Batman finds out that prolonged exposure to the gas leads to permanent insanity, and so he calls Alfred for help, only to find out that his butler is already affected by the mysterious gas.
I'm here in downtown Gotham, where corporate CEOs have gone stark raving mad. It would appear that the collapse of the stock market is now imminent.
So he rushes to stop the Joker and drags the gas-spewing barge out to sea. However, the Joker finds out and sends his goons to attack him. At first, Bats has the upper hand, but he ends up in a fight with the robot captain, and let's just say it doesn't really go well for Batman. The captain throws Batman into a trash can. Was that like alliteration or did it rhyme? Captain, Batman, trash can. Whatever. And the Joker, being the generous villain he is, punctures some holes for Bats to breathe. And to avoid getting bored, he tosses Batman into the water to give him a nice view of the ocean floor. Isn't that just the kindest villain you ever heard?
Oops. Looks like our air holes are water holes, too. What a shame.
Bats manages to escape from the trash can with the help of his bat boat. After nearly drowning, he tracks down the Joker to a junkyard. He starts fighting his henchmen and even makes the robot captain into a box of junk. In the end, Batman spoils Joker's plan and even saves him from falling into the incineration plant. Bruce returns home to find Alfred cleaning up his mess, feeling guilty as he destroyed Bruce's favorite Chinese vase. However, Bruce tells him not to worry, because he'll cut his pay, to which Alfred squirms. But then Bruce drops the April Fools. Damn, Alfred almost had a heart attack. Be a clown. Episode 9 kicks off with Mayor Hill giving a speech at a construction site talking about how much safer Gotham City is. Yeah, exactly. And I'm the Tooth Fairy. Right then, a couple of crooks come barging in as they completely destroy his speech. Literally. But our boy Bats is already in action as he swoops and puts the goons in their place. However, here's where it starts to get interesting. The mayor starts trash-talking Batman, calling him a costume freak, and compares him to the Joker. What? Well, that's what the Joker thinks, who watches it on TV. He gets pissed at being compared to Batman, as he apparently believes that Bats even lacks a solid wardrobe. I mean, to be fair, the Joker has some major style points. So, he decides to crash the mayor's house party and teach him a lesson.
And make all of Gotham City as safe as my own mansion.
Oh, really?
At the mayor's mansion, we're introduced to the mayor's son Jordan, who's celebrating his birthday. But Jordan's not happy with his father, who he feels doesn't care much about him. As the party begins, Jordan is sad and depressed. But in comes Gecko, the clown, who lights up the environment. Jordan's impressed and asks for tips on how to become a magician, to which Gecko laughs and replies saying the first necessary step is to run away. The second step is to find a great magician, and the third step is to steal the act. Well, it's not what I would teach a child, personally. Turns out, Gecko the clown is actually the Joker. He plants a stick of dynamite in the birthday cake, calling it a candle, and leaves the place cackling.
It's time for Jordo to make his wish.
And mine, too.
Bruce, who's one of the guests, figures out that the candle is actually a bomb, and knocks the explosive cake into the pool. Meanwhile, Joker heads to his hideout and is surprised to find that Jordan is actually with him. Meanwhile, Batman figures out the Joker is involved and tracks him to an abandoned amusement park. Because, of course, where will you find a Joker's hideout? A library. At first, Joker knocks him out and ties him upside down in a glass container, asking Jordan to enjoy the show.
I don't like this, Gecko.
Quiet, kid, it's a free ticket.
But after seeing Batman drowning, Jordan takes an axe and tries to smash the tank. Seeing this, the Joker gets pissed and starts chasing the boy. Meanwhile, Bats manages to escape and rescue Jordan from the Joker in the roller coaster. The episode finally ends with Jordan reuniting with his dad, who finally remembers that having a kid means actually paying attention to him. What a sweet ending. If not an obvious one. Two-Face, Part 1. Episode 10 starts off with poor Harvey Dent having a terrible nightmare with a mysterious figure flipping a coin, saying, "It's time, Harvey. It's time." Right then, he wakes up and heads out to help Commissioner Gordon to catch some goons who work under Rupert Thorne's gang. With the help of Batman, they catch the goons, and Harvey congratulates the police.
Hold your fire!
It's him! Watch out!
As the goons are taken away, one of them starts taunting Harvey and splashes mud on his suit. Suddenly, Harvey goes full-on Hulk mode and starts attacking the handcuffed guy. But he quickly turns back to Mr. Nice Guy with no memory of his outburst. Something's wrong with this guy.
What in the name of heaven did you think you were doing?
I don't know. I guess he just pressed the right button.
That's one heck of a button.
Meanwhile, Thorne's fuming about Harvey messing with his business and orders his secretary to dig up dirt on the squeaky clean DA. While in what looks like a party, Harvey is enjoying his time speaking with the guests. But after knowing that Thorne's men got released, he's another public meltdown. However, his fiancée Grace calms him down, and Bruce Wayne suggests therapy. During a hypnosis session with Dr. Nora Crest, Harvey reveals his other personality, Big Bad Harv, who's his alter ego and loves flipping coins. He starts destroying the place, but the hypnotic lady pulls off some Doctor Strange-type moves and brings him back to normal. However, Thorne's assistant eavesdrops and goes to report it to her boss. During an election campaign, Harvey gets a call from none other than Rupert Thorne, who wants to strike a deal. Thorne reveals his secret and calls him Big Bad Harv, which forces him to meet up with the mob boss in an abandoned factory. On the way, Wayne meets Harvey, but Harvey brushes it off, telling him to mind his own business. But being the world's greatest detective, Batman follows his friend to an abandoned chemical plant. Over there, Thorne reveals that he's found Dent's childhood records, showing how he repressed his anger after a fight with a bully, which ended up creating his other personality. He threatens to leak this information to the public and demands to follow his orders. However, much to everybody's surprise, Harvey goes full-on Big Bad Harv and attacks Thorne's gang. Right then, Batman arrives in the scene and reluctantly helps his friend.
Wild.
As Thorne makes a run for his life, a bullet hits the electrical switchboard, which causes a live wire to fall, and poor Harvey gets caught in the explosion. At the hospital, Harvey demands to see his face, because he knows that something's wrong. But the moment he sees his face, he starts screaming and rushes out of the room. Right then, Grace shows up with flowers, but after seeing his face, she's horribly scared, as Harvey disappears into the night sky.
Harvey.
Goodbye, Grace.
Two-Face, Part 2. We continue with where we left off as Two-Face, aka Harvey Dent, has fully embraced his new personality. Now he's got a new look with a half-handsome and half-unhandsome face. And he's fully solidified this change with a new hobby. You guessed it, flipping coins. He, along with his henchmen, destroyed one of Thorne's places as the coin flip says, go for it. As they say, trust the coin.
Good heads, we leave 'em alone. Bad heads, we hit 'em hard.
Thorne's not happy about it, and puts a bounty on Two-Face's head while Bruce suffers from nightmares after failing to save Harvey from the accident. Harvey's girlfriend, Grace, gets a surprise visit from Thorne's assistant, who poses as a cop to find out Two-Face's location. She leaves a transmitter to Grace to use it as a signal if Harvey reaches out. Meanwhile, Two-Face, who is busy planning his next move, comes across an old photo of him and Grace. After seeing their boss upset, his goons offer to bring her in, but the coin says, no, not too soon.
Let's just say I'm gonna do to him exactly what he did to me.
On the other side, Batman figures out Two-Face's next target, and Bullseye, Bats, is spot on as he tracks down Two-Face. They tussle in the office, but Two-Face manages to escape with some juicy evidence against Thorne. As they're driving away, he sees an ad at a wedding shop which reminds him of Grace, so he calls her and she agrees to meet. But she activates the transmitter that she got from Thorne's assistant. After reaching the location, Grace tries to smooth talk with Harvey, saying how he won her heart. She pulls away the cloth and says that she still loves him, which melts Two-Face's heart. However, just as everything was going good, Thorne and his goons crash the party.
Last we meet, face to face to face.
Thorne keeps Grace hostage and forces Two-Face to hand over the evidence against him. However, once he gets the files, he orders to finish them off. But before that, Batman joins in the party, and the battle starts. In the end, Two-Face has Thorne at gunpoint, with Batman pleading him to let the law handle it. But Two-Face takes out his coin and flips to make a decision. Seeing this, Batman tosses a crate of silver dollars, mixing them up with Two-Face's special coin. Now, unable to make a decision without his coin, Two-Face has a complete breakdown. The police arrive and arrest Thorne and his gang. Two-Face is arrested too, but Grace, being the loyal girl that she is, sticks with him.
It's all right now, Harvey. I'm here.
The episode ends with Commissioner Gordon wondering if there's still hope for Harvey, to which Batman replies, where there's love, there's hope, as he flips a coin into a fountain that lands on the good side. I've got Batman in my basement. Alright, so the next episode starts off with some goons who are up to no good, again, as they decide to steal a fancy egg. But before they can make their escape, Batman shows up. However, out of nowhere, a massive South American vulture starts attacking them. While he's busy dealing with the bird, the goons manage to slip away, leaving behind some bird food. Meanwhile, these two kids, Sherman and Roberta, are playing with their junior detective kit. However, Frank and Nick show up to ruin the party, as one of the bullies even grabs the binoculars and spots Penguin's vulture, thinking it's a hawk. Sherman finds out that it's actually a vulture, decides to follow it. I promise, this will all make sense in a second. The kids follow the bird to an abandoned birdseed factory where they spot the egg thieves and the mastermind behind the heist, the Penguin. Sherman immediately recognizes the stolen egg, and the duo try to make their escape to inform the cops.
Ah, Scrap, my faithful pet. Ready for a ripe repast?
But the vulture spots the kids and starts chasing them. Luckily, Batman shows up, but gets hit with a gas pellet. After seeing Batman in trouble, Sherman and Roberta put him into the Batmobile and drive it themselves. They end up taking the Penguin and his goons on a fun ride and take Batman to their place. Back in Sherman's place, Batman tries to tell the kids about some capsules in the car's visor, which the kids don't really understand. Meanwhile, Frank and Nick discover the Batmobile and find the capsules. Finally, Sherman gets it, but the vulture shows up again. Just when you think things can't get any crazier, the Penguin and his gang break in. The kids set up Home Alone-style traps using Batman's gadgets, but it only helps in slowing them down.
Hey, Raven, are you okay? These commoners have such cheap furniture.
Finally, Batman snaps out of it and faces off against the Penguin in an epic screwdriver duel. In the end, Batman wins. Because he's Batman, of course he's gonna win. The episode ends with the bullies working for Sherman's detective agency while Batman watches them from the shadows. This one got a little wacky. Episode 14, Heart of Ice, kicks off with a mysterious figure talking to a ballerina figure, promising revenge against a monster that took her away. Meanwhile, Gotham's on high alert because of a series of high-tech heists happening in GothCorp. Batman figures out these stolen gadgets can be combined to create a massive freeze cannon, predicting the next target, and heads off to face off the mastermind. That's where he meets Freeze. Oh, my bad. Mr. Freeze, the coolest villain in Gotham. He gives Batman a tough fight as he literally freezes him in one shot. However, he manages to break free. But by then, Freeze has already gotten away, leaving one of his goons behind. After seeing the poor guy, Bats feels pity, and he saves him. Later that day, he pays a visit to GothCorp to find out the reason behind the recent robbery. He meets CEO Ferris Boyle, who puts on his good guy act, but shows his true colors as he talks rudely about his deceased employee, who turns out to be Mr. Freeze. To know about the truth, Batman decides to go undercover and uncovers the tragic backstory of Victor Fries, a scientist who was trying to save his terminally ill wife Nora through cryogenics. However, Boyle storms in and cuts Fry's funding, causing an accident that turns the lovesick scientist into a cold-hearted freak.
Get out! Get out! Nora! Nora!
Just as the flashback ends, Freeze captures Batman again and reveals his master plan to crash Boyle's award ceremony with his giant freeze gun. Mr. Freeze reaches his target's location and starts sealing the building. However, Bats makes his escape and arrives just on time for action. In the end, Batman stops the freeze cannon, but finds himself outmatched by Freeze's super-strength suit. So, in an utter moment of desperation, Batman uses his secret weapon, Alfred's chicken soup, to crack open Freeze's helmet? What? Bats doesn't stop here. He exposes Boyle's true nature to the press that leaves him shivering. The story ends with Freeze talking dejectedly with the ballerina figure as he fails to avenge his beloved wife.
I can only beg your forgiveness and pray you'll hear me somehow, someplace.
The Cat and the Claw, Part 1. Episode 13 starts off with Catwoman who's out for a little late-night shopping. And by shopping, I mean stealing a necklace from somebody's house. She's got her cat Isis, who dodges the lasers and hands the necklace to Catwoman. But Batman, who's lurking in the shadows, starts chasing them, and the two start jumping across rooftops just like cats.
So long, Dark Knight.
Drop in anytime.
In the end, Bats manages to trap Catwoman in the alley, but the sneaky kitty pulls an Uno reverse card and buries Batman under a pile of trash. As she escapes, Isis comes face to face with a truck, and just when it looks like Isis is about to get flattened, Batman saves the cat, only for it to run away. Next up, we've got a charity auction, and Bruce Wayne's up for grabs, because apparently in Gotham, charity dates are a thing. After a lot of 500, 600, 700s, a mysterious woman bids for $10,000, and she wins the auction. And the lady turns out to be none other than Selina Kyle, who we already know is Catwoman. Bruce is impressed, and he even blushes. But before they can talk about their lunch date, they hear gunshots with police chasing some goons.
Please understand, it's purely for the animals, Mr. Wayne. You're off the hook.
But you're not.
I beg your pardon.
So Bruce escapes in his usual fashion to save the day. He catches the goons, and the commissioner drops the bombshell that a terrorist called Red Claw is in town. Meanwhile, Selina's frustrated after a failed deal to save mountain lions with a company called Multigon standing in her way. Bruce, who has come for a date, tries to help her out. He arranges for a meeting with the head of the company, but the CEO is about as cooperative as a cat in the bathtub. Not only that, he's with the Red Claw and her gang.
I'd rather it were Batman. Oh, you should have seen him, Maven. He had the eyes of a lion.
Later that night, Batman grills a mob boss for information, while Catwoman spies at Multigon. She discovers a hidden safe and takes some photos to dig some more information about the company. Unfortunately for her, Red Claw gets alerted, and they start looking for Catwoman. She escapes to the roof, and just when it looks like Kitty's 9 lives are up, Batman swoops in to save her. She starts kissing Batman very passionately and throws him off the building. Not what I was expecting.
You can't deny there's something between us.
You're right. And I'm afraid it's the law.
Back at home, Selina talks about her mission and the intel she got with her secretary. But little did she know, one of Red Claw's goons just saw her unmask. Things are getting interesting. The Cat and the Claw, Part 2. So we continue where we left off with Batman in Gotham Park getting crucial information about a train heist right in the corner with Red Claw behind it. He meets up with Commissioner Gordon, and they figure out that it might be a military train that the group is about to target. And rightly so, Red Claw and her goons are behind the military train. They hijack it and steal a canister of plague virus. Batman shows up, but Red Claw's got an ace up her sleeve as she threatens to release the virus and kill everybody within 10 miles, including herself. She escapes with the virus, and Bats is left to wonder what to do next. The next day, Bruce and Selina are on a date. However, it turns into a car chase with goons going after them. But Bruce, using his Batman skills, sends the bad guys off a bridge. They finally reach Selina's place, and Bruce goes all mushy, saying he cares about her. But Selina has other plans.
What makes you think they weren't after you?
A nice guy like me?
Good night, Bruce.
She suits up as Catwoman and goes out for a walk. And what I mean by walk, well, you will see soon. Back in the Batcave, Alfred spots a cat hair and Bats deduces that Selina is actually Catwoman. Back in Selina's place, her secretary Maven gets attacked by one of Red Claw's thugs. However, Batman swoops in and squeezes Maven for information on Catwoman. She tells him that the Catwoman is out for a walk near the Multigon site. See what I mean by a walk? And also reveals that Catwoman has a crush on him. On the other side, Catwoman breaks into the Multigon site, but her luck runs out as she gets caught. Luckily, Batman arrives right on time to get captured and tied up in a secret bunker. Oop, bad timing. Right then, Red Claw appears along with the good-for-nothing boss and reveals her master plan to fake a plague outbreak. She leaves them with the plague virus, and the duo are left with no other option but to get the heck out of there. They manage to untie the ropes, and the duo make a run for their lives.
If I could just get some slack.
What this situation needs is a woman's touch.
Now, both Batman and Catwoman share a moment, and Batman decides to stay back. He blows up the facility and crashes the truck into a helicopter. However, Red Claw is not going to go down without a fight and starts kicking Catwoman like a football. Right then, a mountain lion pounces on Red Claw, sending her off a cliff. The episode ends with Batman waiting for the kitty at her place, as he finally admits that he does have feelings for her, right before he arrests her. Looks like our boy got his revenge for getting pushed from the building after all. Not to forget, we'll see more Batman and Catwoman moments later in the show. Beware the Grey Ghost. Alright folks, the episode Beware the Grey Ghost kicks off with a young Bruce watching his favorite show, The Grey Ghost. Now fast forward to present day Gotham, and suddenly everything's happening similar to what happened in the show. Bats finds the connection strikingly similar, but can't remember how the episode ends. So he tries to find a copy of the show, but he fails to get it. That's when we're introduced to the new character, Simon Trent, the actor who played the Grey Ghost. However, he's now suffering from poverty, and decides to part ways with his Grey Ghost stuff to meet his rent and expenses.
Trent, I know you're in there. This ain't no homeless shelter. Pay your rent or get out.
Lousy has-been actor.
He returns home and falls asleep, only to find his memorabilia mysteriously returning with a note from a friend. Along with the memorabilia, he also finds a note of a location, so he decides to check it out. Turns out, it's none other than Batman, who wants to recruit Trent to help with a case. After some convincing, Trent hands over the episode that Bats was looking for. Bruce watches it and finds out that the bombs are actually in radio-controlled cars. He informs the police, who get ready before the bombs blast off, but the mastermind finds it out and corners Batman. That's when Simon Trent, in his gray ghost gear, scoops in to save him. The duo head to the Batcave, and Batman reveals he's a huge fan of the gray ghost and even shows him his collection. However, when Batman finds out that the fingerprints on the toy car belong to Trent, he confronts him, asking what he's up to. Trent pleads that he's innocent and tells him that he had sold the cars to the toy shop owner, Ted Dimer. The duo head to Ted's shop and destroy it as they take him down in a blaze of glory. And by glory, I mean they literally blow up his toy shop. Jeez. The episode wraps up with a happy ending for Trent as his career's revived, as he's hailed as a hero for saving Gotham City. Feet of Clay, Part 1. The next episode starts with this guy, Lucius Fox, heading to an abandoned station to meet our one and only Bruce Wayne. Spoiler alert, it's not really Bruce. The fake Bruce invites Fox inside the station and tries to snatch the suitcase filled with Roland Daggert's dark secrets. More on him soon. Right then, a bunch of armed goons pop up, forcing Fox to run for his life. However, Batman swoops in and takes down the thugs one after the other. The police arrive at the scene and find Lucius Fox, who points at Bruce Wayne as his attacker before passing out. Now, who is this fake Bruce? It's Matt Hagen, a Hollywood heartthrob who's hooked on the stuff called Renew You that lets him play real-life Mr. Potato Head.
You can't go on like this, Matt.
Okay, but why is he helping Daggett? So the story goes, after a nasty car crash, Hagen was left looking like a melted action figure, which was the final nail in the coffin for his acting career. However, it was Daggett's product, Renew You, that came to his rescue, allowing him to reshape his face however he wants. Hagen's supply is running low, so now he needs to find a way to get a lot of it on his own. You know, like stealing it. Now the scene shifts to Daggett, who decides to discard Hagen and send his minions, Belle and Germs, to take care of him. Desperate for the face fix, Hagen breaks into Daggett's lab to start looking for his magical face mixture.
I'm looking for Mr. Daggett. I don't believe we've met. My name's Wayne. Bruce Wayne.
But Daggett's minions catch him and force-feed him a whole vat of the stuff, leaving him for dead. Meanwhile, Batman's busy playing cat and mouse with Belle as he goes all out to catch him. He starts chasing him out of the city and hangs him in his Batwing. But before Belle can spill the beans, he faints, which forces Batman to throw him in a swimming pool. Back in Gotham, Bruce tries to clear his name with Fox, so he goes to his hospital room. However, Fox feels threatened for his life and presses the security alarm, leaving Bruce arrested. As for poor Hagen, his buddy Teddy finds him in an alley, looking more like an escaped science experiment than a movie actor. As he takes a look in the mirror, he screams out so loud that probably would have woken up half of Gotham. He's a walking, talking pile of clay. Feet of Clay, Part 2. Alright, so we continue with where we left off. Hagen, who now looks like a pile of clay, having a serious identity crisis. He starts remembering how he got addicted to Renew You and how Daggett came into his life like a shady fairy godmother with his magic potion. Dig this tip, boys. If a businessman offers you experimental drugs, just say no, or you'll end up like Hagen. Fortunately, he figures out that he can now shapeshift into anything.
Some of the best parts I ever had.
But also finds out it's not that easy. It requires a lot of concentration, which leaves him frustrated. Knowing that his movie career is in absolute tatters, he's out for revenge against Daggett, and decides to call himself Clayface. Meanwhile, Bruce is out of prison on bail, and corners Germs, who's about to finish off Fox. But suddenly, a cop intervenes in Batman's interrogation, and turns out to be none other than Clayface. He throws Batman away, and takes away Germs. After a short tussle, Clayface manages to escape from the place as he morphs and goes down the sewers. However, he's now more frustrated than ever, wanting nothing more than Daggett's demise. He even lashes out at Teddy, his only friend.
I told you I don't need rest. I don't need food. And I don't need you!
After fully embracing his Clayface persona, he crashes Daggett's TV interview in the most dramatic way possible. starting out as this old lady, then slowly showing his true form. However, Batman shows up for round 2, only to get pinned as he struggles to free himself from Clayface's hands. He manages to throw Clayface into a room full of televisions and starts showing his old movies, which puts Hagen in a frenzy, to the point where he loses control of his body. Right then, the police arrive and see Clayface turning into Bruce, which is enough evidence to prove Wayne's not guilty.
Stop it! Turn them off! I can't control it! I can't be all of them! Not all at once!
Finally, he crashes into a panel and gets electrocuted, putting him to rest forever. Well, that's what everybody thinks, but Batman's not buying it. And sure enough, Clayface is alive and kicking. While Teddy mourns his dead friend, Clayface is already back on the streets, disguised as a woman as he laughs like a maniac. Geez, something is seriously wrong with villains in this series. Actually, maybe that's the point. Episode 22, Joker's Favor, starts off with this guy, Charlie Collins, who is your everyday Gotham Joe having the worst day of his life. He's driving home, probably dreaming of a cold beer and some peace, as he's frustrated with his 9 to 5. However, that's when a car cuts right in front of him, breaking his patience entirely. So Charlie, not realizing who he's dealing with, makes some bad choice of words. Here's the issue though. The person who cut in front of him was none other than the Joker. Oi. Joker runs him off the road and corners our Gotham Joe into a forest. With no way to escape, Charlie pulls the old "I've got a family" card and promises to do anything that the Joker wants. The Joker, being the unpredictable psycho that he is, takes Charlie's license and says that he's going to cash in the favor someday.
Okay. What? I don't know! I haven't thought of it yet!
Fast forward 2 years, Charlie has moved, changed his name, and probably even dyed his non-existent hair to finally breathe a sigh of relief. However, little did he know that the Joker has kept all his eyes on him like a creepy ex-girlfriend. So when Commissioner Gordon's about to get an award, the Joker decides it's time to call in that favor. Charlie, who's reluctant to head to Gotham, submits after Joker threatens to take care of his family. So with no other option, he goes to Gotham wondering what's waiting for him.
How are you, man? You look great. Lost a little weight. Lost a little hair, too.
It turns out, all he has to do is hold the door open for Harley Quinn. Seems pretty easy, doesn't it? Something is fishy. Really fishy. Well, that's what even he thinks. The scene then shifts to a ceremony where we have Bruce as one of the attendees. He leaves the ceremony to patrol the city, where he sees a bat signal set off by Charlie. When it's finally showtime, Charlie opens the door for Harley, only to find his hand glued to the handle.
Don't stop now, Jimmy. The party's just starting.
And the next thing you know, the room is filled with paralyzing gas, and in comes the Joker, who pins a bomb on Gordon's chest. Thankfully, Batman swoops in just in time, nabs the bomb, and tosses it right into Joker's van. With no getaway ride, Joker starts to flee on foot, but eventually gets caught by Charlie in a back alley. And at this point, Charlie has had more than enough of the clown, and threatens to blow them both up with one of Joker's own bombs. Wow. Just like, look at the crazy look in this guy's eyes. Even Joker is gonna pee his pants.
No! Batman! Batman! How long have you been there?
So what does Joker do now? He cries and screams for Batman's help, as he doesn't want to die in the hands of a miserable little nobody. He even surrenders all the information he's gathered about his family, only for Charlie to reveal the bomb to be nothing but a confetti popper. As Batman takes away a very grumpy Joker, Charlie happily heads back home, finally free from Joker's eyes. Fear of victory. The episode kicks off at Gotham University, where Dick Grayson, aka Robin, and his roommate Brian are watching sports news. We're introduced to Brian as a football star on the rise who's a bit nervous about the upcoming game. But Dick, being a good friend, helps cheer him up. However, little do they know, things are about to get pretty weird. They see a news report about athletes having bizarre panic attacks while playing. And to make matters worse, right then Brian gets a cryptic telegram wishing him luck, but reminding him that only a fool knows no fear. Weird.
I'm betting on it. A fan.
As I said, weird.
Now the scene shifts to game day, and a rising star makes a complete mess out of the game. He sees the opposing players as monsters and curls up like a pangolin. Yeah, just like this guy. Dick knows that something is off. Later that night, Batman and Robin are on patrol when they spot some jewel thieves. As they grapple up a building, Robin suddenly freezes in fear. In the end, Batman ends up saving him, but it's very clear something fishy is going on.
Oh my! Oh my.
So Batman decides to investigate the dorm room and finds a strange powder on the telegram. After analysis, he finds out that the strange powder is a fear-inducing chemical that turns excitement into terror. Wait. But before we reveal the mastermind, can you guys guess who's behind it? Yeah, you're right, it's obviously Scarecrow. Because who else would have a PhD in scaring people? The duo head to Arkham Asylum, and the only thing they find is Scarecrow's Scarecrow. Serious, just like a stuffed scarecrow. Later, it's game day once again, and everybody's on high alert. Robin spots Scarecrow entering the room of players and finds out his fear toxin laces the helmets of the players. Meanwhile, Batman confronts Scarecrow on the stadium roof, threatening to drop fear toxin on the crowd. Luckily, Robin, facing his fear, swings in to catch the toxin vial. Seeing that, Scarecrow tries to make a run for it, but come on, we all know how that's gonna end. The episode ends with Dick and Bruce watching TV, as Brian signs with the Gotham Knights. Mad as a Hatter. The next episode starts off with Jervis Tetch, who's playing with a bunch of rats by literally controlling their minds, even making them have tea parties. That is a red flag. Bruce Wayne drops by and checks on Jervis's proposed project on using microchips to increase the brain's potential. However, instead of revealing that his project was successful, he decides to make some excuses, and even Bruce takes it in a kinda chill way. But this doesn't sit well with the supervisor, Dr. Cates, who threatens to kick him out of the job. Meanwhile, Jervis's coworker Alice, being the sweetheart that she is, tries to cheer him up. Jervis, who is in love with her, can't digest that she already has a boyfriend.
She's got a boyfriend after all. Better to withdraw like a gentleman, forget her.
Now, Jervis is torn between leaving Alice alone or using his mind control to make her fall for him. But he doesn't want her to exist like his puppet, so he drops the plan. Then, like a gift from the love gods, Alice and her boyfriend Billy have a fight and they break up. So Jervis sees his chance and decides to take Alice on a magical date, Wonderland style. He dresses up as the Mad Hatter and takes Alice out on the town. He uses his mind control cards to impress her, even making some thugs jump in the river. Later, he takes her out to a restaurant followed by Storybook Land before dropping her off to her home. However, just when Jervis thinks that he's winning, Billy, who's in Alice's house, proposes to her. After knowing that the couple have patched up, Jervis goes full-on villain mode and brainwashes his supervisor, kidnaps Billy, and forces him to break up with Alice. Then he swoops into Alice's house to comfort her, only to find Batman waiting. He manages to escape from Batman, and the scene shifts to Storybook Land. He sends goons after Batman, including Billy and Dr. Cates.
Now, this is a game more to my liking.
However, Batman manages to free Billy, who helps him take down the other mind-controlled victims. However, by then, Mad Hatter had left the place, and Bat starts chasing him into a card-themed maze, which is controlled by the Hatter. But Batman manages to outsmart him, so Mad Hatter gets pissed and threatens to behead Batman. A little violent for a show that aired on Fox Kids, but luckily he manages to escape and drops a giant statue right on the Hatter. In the end, Alice and Billy reunite, while heartbroken Jervis recites the Mock Turtle poem. Episode 29, Eternal Youth, starts off with a scene straight out of a horror movie, as a poor elite woman runs for her life only to get sprayed with a mysterious chemical that completely immobilizes her.
Evil, Mrs. Thomas? I don't control a company that leveled a 1,000-year-old forest for a strip mine.
Back in Wayne Manor, Bruce is not happy with his executives making shady deals with environmental destroyers. Right then, Alfred's lady friend Maggie shows up and starts flirting with him. Bruce gets an invite to this fancy Eternal Youth spa, but he's too busy being Batman to go. So he asks Alfred and Maggie to take his place. At the spa, they meet Dr. Daphne Demeter, who's pushing her miracle substance called Demetrite to the attendees. Alfred, who is skeptical at first, quickly falls in love with the compound. Back in Gotham, Batman's on the case of some missing top dogs of Gotham City. He starts investigating one of the victims' house and finds the Eternal Youth Spa's promotional video, which prompts him to call Alfred and ask about the details. However, Alfred informs that the missing victim had already left a few weeks ago, and adds that he'll be back as a new man. When Alfred comes back to Wayne Manor, he starts decorating the Batcave with plants.
Good to see you, sir.
He also asks Batman to take a sip of Demetrite water, but faints and falls on the ground. This makes Batman suspicious, and he analyzes the Demetrite, which turns out to be some seriously nasty stuff. The next morning, Alfred and Maggie head back to the spa for more treatment, and surprise, surprise, Dr. Demeter is actually Poison Ivy. She takes the couple for the final treatment and turns them into human trees using the mysterious gas. Batman rushes to the place, but is captured by her assistants Lily and Violet. He's brought over to Ivy, who reveals her master plan of turning eco-criminals into trees. She shows the petrified tree forms of Alfred and Maggie and orders her minions to spray Bats with a triple-strength mixture that will instantly transform him into a tree. But surprisingly, Batman is completely unharmed since he'd coated his suit with herbicide, which makes the spray completely useless. In the final showdown, Batman accidentally creates a giant tree that scoops up Ivy and her minions.
The enzyme!
The episode wraps up with Alfred and Maggie recovering in the hospital, with Bruce bringing them flowers, as Maggie calls him a nice man, but not too bright. Perchance to dream. In this one, Batman is on his usual routine chasing some goons as he ends up in an empty warehouse. However, our boy gets knocked out and wakes up into a completely new world. He asks Alfred about Robin, but Alfred doesn't know exactly who he's referring to, just thinks it's some lady that Bruce is dating. He tries to find the Batcave, but it's gone. His parents are alive. He's engaged to Selina Kyle, and there's some other guy running around as Batman. What is going on?
Your mother called, darling, said you could use some cheering up. And, who better for the job than the woman you're marrying next week?
Understandably confused, Bruce visits Dr. Tompkins and asks her opinion about the matter, to which she says, privilege, period. After hearing that, Bruce makes up his mind to live this new life, not as Batman, but Bruce Wayne. He hugs his father and even jokes with Alfred, showing that he's enjoying the new world. However, things start getting really weird when Bruce can't read anything. Newspapers, books, everything is really jumbled. And that's when he realizes he's dreaming. So he heads to a nearby store to buy some makeshift crime-fighting gear, only to end up in a chase with the police. He goes to the Gotham cemetery and climbs the top of a bell tower to confront Batman, who turns out to be the Mad Hatter.
Here I am! I've been waiting for you!
Turns out, Jervis created this whole dream world to keep Batman out of his world. However, Bruce is definitely losing his patience, and he demands Mad Hatter to release him from the dream world, but all he says is no. So Bruce does what the least sensible person would do, he jumps off the tower. He jumps and wakes up in the real world with Mad Hatter's mind control device on his head. He takes down his goons and confronts the Hatter, who breaks down crying that all he wanted was Batman out of his life. As the police take the Hatter away, Batman's left to face the harsh reality again. Well, at least he had some quality time with the people that he misses. Robin's Reckoning Part 1. In episode 32, it kicks off with our heroes Batman and Robin catching some mobsters at a construction site. They manage to capture one of the gang members and squeeze some info out of him, dropping the name Billy Marin. After hearing this name, Batman suddenly goes all lone wolf and tells Robin to sit this one out. However, Robin is not very thrilled about that.
All right, scumbucket. It's you, me, and 30 stories.
Starts snooping around the Batcave's database. Turns out, Billy Marin is actually Tony Zuko, the man who murdered Robin's parents. So we're taking a trip down memory lane to when Robin was just little Dick Grayson, part of the Flying Grayson Circus Act. Everything was going great for the family. But one fateful day, a guy named Zuko comes to the circus asking for protection money. When the ringmaster refuses, Zuko leaves the place, saying that he's definitely gonna regret his decision. So what did he do? He sabotaged the trapeze rope of the Graysons, and let's just say it doesn't end well for Dick's parents. Bruce, who was also part of the audience, takes pity on Dick and brings him home to give him a new life. The scene shifts to the present, where Robin's fuming that Batman is trying to catch Zuko without him. Meanwhile, Batman's on the hunt, remembering his first attempt to catch Zuko, while Robin was adjusting to his new life at Wayne Manor. He tracks down Zuko to his uncle's place, but Zuko manages to get away. After returning home, Alfred reminds Bruce that Dick needs some attention and emotional support. Hearing this, Bruce goes to comfort Dick, who's feeling guilty about not warning his parents despite finding out something was fishy with that guy. But Bruce reminds him that they could have done nothing about it and explains that the feeling of losing a loved one never really goes away, but that he will learn to understand.
If only I could have warned them. But there isn't anything you could have done.
Back in the present, Robin's had enough of waiting. He hops on his motorbike and goes after Zuko himself. Robin's Reckoning Part 2. The next episode continues where we left off, taking us back to the past where we see Bruce and Dick bonding over a friendly fencing game. But Bruce has to make his move as Gordon drops the bombshell that Zuko might skip town. However, Dick eavesdrops their conversation and decides to take matters into his own hands. He runs away from Wayne Manor and starts looking for his parents' killer. At first, he's about as successful as a penguin in a flying contest as he finds absolutely no clue of the guy. On his way, our boy finds a damsel in distress and saves her from her boss.
Get my hands on you!
Get away, kid! Jump!
After getting impressed by his bravery, the girl treats him to a meal, takes him to McDonald's. Over there, the waitress recognizes Zuko's face, and Dick tracks him to an abandoned building only to get caught. Right then, Batman comes to his rescue, but Dick accidentally falls in the aqueduct, which forces Batman to go after him. He's saved, but he's not happy to know that Zuko escaped. After a disappointing trip, Batman takes Dick to his Batcave and reveals he's actually Bruce Wayne.
Why'd you bring me here?
Because I want to know just how badly you want Tony Zuko.
Meanwhile, Zuko is in full-on panic mode as he fears that Batman is after him. He hears noise in the ceiling and decides to turn it into Swiss cheese with the machine gun. And, well, he was spot on, as Batman drops from the ceiling, injuring his knees. He throws a smoke bomb and makes his escape, and the two begin a chase through an abandoned amusement park.
Mama!
But what is it with Gotham having so much abandoned junk? Despite his injury, Batman takes out Zuko's goons one by one and even ties them to horses in the merry-go-round. Zuko spots him and starts shooting like a maniac as he wants Batman out of his sight. Just when you think it's over, Robin comes crashing through on his motorcycle, grabs Zuko, and they both start fighting each other. Eventually, Robin gets the upper hand and is close to finishing him off, but Batman steps in and asks him to stop and leave it to the law. Robin, who's reluctant at first, hands Zuko over to the police. The episode ends with Batman and Robin reuniting as Bats explains that he was just trying to protect Robin from losing himself to revenge. The Laughing Fish. Episode 34, The Laughing Fish, starts with fishermen doing their good old work of catching fish and selling them in the market. But they're shocked to find that what they fished out is nothing but a bunch of freaky fish with signature Joker smiles. The Dark Knight, who's present in the scene, knows that his arch-nemesis is up to no good. Meanwhile, the Clown Prince barges into the copyright office and decides to copyright the fish because they look like him. He threatens this guy Francis to make it happen by midnight. So the cops try to protect Francis, and Bullock is confident that no one can enter.
Coming to your local store, just as soon as that nasty old Mr. G. Carl Francis decides to give me my legal cut of the profits.
But to prove them wrong, Bat sneaks in like a ninja and warns them the Joker will too. Sure enough, right then, with a van with a giant swordfish shows up and launches straight through the window, spraying gas everywhere. The gas causes Francis to start laughing like a maniac, but Batman quickly injects the antidote. Joker's not done though. He announces his next target on TV like it's a game show.
Here's a message from our sponsor.
They're finny and funny and oh so delish.
Now, the cops and Batman try to protect this new guy, Jackson, but the Joker is one step ahead as he sends in a Joker-fied cat. Batman gets attacked and starts laughing hysterically, so Jackson injects the antidote to him. But Jackson turns out to be Batman in disguise and cures the cat too. Detective Bullock gets pissed and decides to take matters into his own hands. He goes to the aquarium only to end up being captured by Harley.
Oh, look at what I caught! Kinda runty, though.
The Joker decides to feed him to a shark before Batman shows up and offers to take his place. The Joker is more than happy to hear this as he pushes Batman into the pool. However, with the help of some shark riding skills, Batman manages to break the tank. He chases Joker to the rooftop, and they both start fighting. However, Batman overpowers him, obviously, and with no place to escape, Joker just jumps off the roof. As he falls, he blows up a rubber ducky tube, but soon realizes that the shark is waiting for him. He disappears into the ocean with a splash as the shark dives after him. The episode ends with Gordon arriving at the scene, and he asks Batman if he thinks the Joker's really gone. But Batman's like, no, he's gonna be back, as Harley sobs in memory of her deceased puddin'.
Back at the wrench? Since my side splitters don't tickle you, how about a skull splitter?
Cat scratch fever. Alright, the episode starts off with Selina Kyle, Catwoman, standing on trial. However, the judge is surprisingly chill, gives her a 5-year probation as she helped Gotham earlier along with Batman. Meanwhile, Bruce is watching this on TV and isn't buying Selina's act. He decides to keep an eye on her but is conflicted because she's fallen in love with his Batman side. Meanwhile, Selina's overjoyed to be free, but her happiness is cut short when she finds out that her cat Isis has run away. They're named after an Egyptian goddess, by the way. YouTube, please don't be mad at me.
I don't know. A couple of days ago, I left the window open and she was gone.
So she starts looking for her cat in the streets before she stumbles upon some thugs who work under Daggett's company. They start catching the stray cats, and Catwoman, being the messiah of animals, decides to play the hero, only to get knocked out by a kick. Oof. Right then, Batman swoops in to save her, and the police show up. Now the scene shifts back to Daggett, who's cooking up a new scheme involving a virus that turns animals into virus carriers. And poor Isis becomes their latest test subject. Back in the station, Bruce bails Selina out, but she friend-zones him pretty hard. It's a little funny, little sad, that she's only in love with Batman, not Bruce.
Maven, how on earth did you raise my bail at this hour?
But right now, she's more interested in why Daggett's involved with the stray animals and what he wants to do with them. Bruce warns her to stay away from danger, but we all know cats don't listen as they think that they've got 9 lives. But like, does a human female in a cat costume make the cut? I don't think so. Anyway, she breaks into Daggett's lab, finds Isis, but gets bitten by her rabid kitty. She manages to escape from the lab, but the effects start kicking in. Luckily, Batman saves her once again and tells her that she's hot. That she's running a fever.
Batman?
You're hot.
Now you notice.
He takes his girl back to her hideout and figures out that Daggett is infecting strays with the virus and planning to sell the cure for big bucks. He goes back to Daggett's place and finds the antitoxin for the infection. However, Daggett's goons show up and release an infected dog to chase Batman. While running for his life, Bats comes across a frozen lake. The goons open fire, causing him to fall into the icy water. But just when the goons think that they've taken him out, Batman grabs one of the goons' legs, causing them all to tumble into the lake. Of course, Batman ends up coming out on top, capturing the bad guys and curing Catwoman. This episode wraps up with Batman and Selina being hailed as heroes, and Daggett being put under investigation. Oi, you'd think they would have looked into him after he turns a guy into clay. Despite that, she's still sad about losing Isis, but Batman gives her a pleasant surprise by returning her cat. Looks like Bruce has dug his own grave. Episode 38, Heart of Steel, starts off with the lady leaving her briefcase at Wayne Enterprises. The security guards open it and find nothing dangerous or important, so they leave it thinking that it's completely harmless. However, this turns out to be a high-tech robo-thief, which starts looking for some confidential info in the building. Fortunately, this alerts the security, who start looking for this robot intruder. Luckily, Bruce is in there too, starts looking for the robot. But even he can't catch this little gadget, as it manages to fly away like a rocket. The woman, who left the suitcase, grabs the stolen goods and speeds off in her car. Back at the Batcave, we find out that these stolen chips are the key to creating thinking machines, aka artificial intelligence. Batman the Animated Series was really ahead of the game there.
Sounds as if the human race could become quite expendable. Except for butlers, of course.
Bruce decides to check out his competitor, the Cybertron Industries, who he thinks might have a hint behind the latest heist. There he meets Carl Rossum, Rhonda, and his AI creation, Hardak, Hardac. Since Bruce doesn't find anything suspicious, he leaves the place, not before asking for a date with Rhonda. The Playboy millionaire does it again. Here's a little plot twist: she's not actually human.
Some people in high places are becoming too curious about this operation. They must be dealt with.
Back in Gordon's house, someone knocks the door, and the next thing you know, Gordon gets replaced by a robot Gordon. His daughter, Barbara, finds out that something is off about his father when he throws away her favorite teddy bear. Later, Rhonda comes to Bruce's office for a date, leaving her makeup kit behind to steal more juicy data. She knocks out Alfred and discovers Bruce Wayne is Batman. After realizing something's going wrong, Batman hurries to his mansion and gets caught by his own robot hands as the episode ends on a cliffhanger. Heart of Steel Part 2. We continue with where we left off, as Bats is in a tough spot as he gets caught by the robo hands. However, he manages to break free and goes to his computer, trying to trace the link. Unfortunately, Hardak cuts it out.
Search for what, Master Bruce?
Anything unusual. She may have left a clue I can use. She's only human.
Over at Cybertron, Rossum realizes that he might have given Hardak a bit too much freedom, so he tries to reprogram it only for the AI to knock him out. After realizing that something's wrong with her father, Barbara calls in Batman for help. But surprise, surprise, Bullock shows up and turns out to be a robot. Bats brings down the Robo-Bullock, and Barbara realizes that her father might have been swapped too. Later that day, the mayor of Gotham City invites Bruce to a meeting of elite club members, but Bruce quickly finds out he's surrounded by humanoid robots. But our millionaire playboy isn't going down without a fight, as he crushes the robots with ease. On the other side, Barbara sneaks into Cybertron only to get caught by a robot trash bin. She finds her father alive, but the AI reveals his master plan, to replace all of humanity with robots. But Bats once again swoops in and rescues Barbara and the others. He starts destroying the AI with explosives, but Rhonda jumps in and starts fighting. In the end, Batman manages to crush the female robot using an elevator. Seeing that he's losing, the AI decides to self-destruct as the duo escape before it explodes.
The plan has failed.
The episode ends with Rossum regretting his actions with Batman, praising Barbara for helping him out. Alrighty, episode 40, If You're So Smart, Why Aren't You Rich? Starts off with a flashback of Edward Nygma, a software geek who gets kicked out from his game dev job by Daniel Mockridge, who pulls the "you signed a work-for-hire contract" trick, keeping all the sweet cash from Nygma's game for himself. Batman the Animated Series was ahead of the curve, folks! So fast forward 2 years later, and Mockridge is living a lavish life and is all set to sell his company to Wayne Enterprises. However, a riddle appears right in front of the stock screen, which spooks Mockridge as he frantically leaves the place.
Why do multi-million-dollar deals break down in the wasteland?
Meanwhile, in the Batcave, Robin's playing Nygma's game, and Batman uses his detective skills to find out what Mockridge was shocked about. He figures out the clue and heads to the nightclub called the Wasteland. At the club, Mockridge meets Nygma, who now calls himself the Riddler. He kidnaps Mockridge, and just when he's about to take him out, Batman and Robin arrive at the scene. They kick some butts, which forces the Riddler to make his escape with the Mockridge. However, not before trapping Robin in a giant Chinese finger trap.
Batman knows who I am. We'll have to put him and his snot-nosed cohort out of the way first.
The duo start chasing Riddler and end up at an amusement park with a giant maze, because apparently Gotham likes IRL games. Inside the maze, they find griffins shooting fireballs, corridors with neck-slicing blades, and all they have is 10 minutes before a robotic Minotaur stabs Mockridge right through the heart.
How do you take out a Minotaur with a single blow? Like this!
However, the Riddler chimes in, saying that he's already left in his private plane. The episode ends with Mockridge stealing a hefty paycheck from selling his company, but is left paranoid, as he fears that one day, the Riddler will come for him again.
How much is a good night's sleep worth? Now there's a riddle for you.
Episode 44, Day of the Samurai, starts off in the land of the rising sun, Japan, where we got this girl, Kairi, who's practicing her fighting moves. But out of nowhere, a ninja pops up, knocks her out, and takes her away, leaving behind a note in ninja style.
Oh, migoto! Daga mada mada da.
After discovering that her star student is gone, Yoru-sensei calls up his old friend Bruce for help. Bruce flies over to Japan with Alfred and finds out the ninja Kyodai wants some ancient scroll that Yoru's family has been guarding for 500 years in exchange for the girl. The ninja believes that this scroll will help him beat Batman and Bruce Wayne, as he knows that the both are the same person. But cheeky Bruce suggests they fool Kyodai with a fake map. However, Yoru-sensei is all about honesty and following the samurai honor code, so that's out of the picture. With no other option, Bats goes to make the trade. He asks Kyodai to return the girl, to which he kicks Kairi off the roof. Bats rushes to save her, but Kyodai gets away with the map.
Ugoku na.
Following this map, Kyodai finds the scroll in a volcano cave, but oops, the scroll crumbles faster than our average New Year's resolutions. However, he manages to save one piece, which has the instructions of the forbidden art of Death Touch. Later that day, Kyodai kidnaps Alfred and challenges Bruce to a final showdown. They meet on an active volcano, remove their masks, and start fighting. As they fight, Kyodai unleashes the Death Touch on Bruce, who quickly falls down like a sack of potatoes. However, Bats manages to get up, as it turns out that he had already figured out Kyodai's trick. Just as things are getting heated, get it? Lava? The ground splits between them. Our bad guy gets trapped, and Bruce, being the good guy he is, tries to save him. But Kyodai chooses to go down with the ship. Or with the volcano. Finally, Bruce and Alfred make it out alive, and Bruce explains his clever armor trick to Alfred. The episode ends with Bruce saying sayonara to Yoru-sensei, who calls Batman a true samurai for showing mercy and not using the Death Touch. Okay, this one is a classic. Almost got him. We've got all the bad guys playing poker featuring Penguin, Two-Face, Killer Croc, Poison Ivy, and of course the Joker. They've got a round-table discussion going, and they start swapping stories about how they almost got Batman, because that's what supervillains do on their nights off.
I know mine's the best, but let's hear yours anyway. I'd say ladies first, but since we don't have any, we'll start with you, Pam.
So first up, we've got Poison Ivy, who talks about her story of how she used pumpkins to nearly unmask Batman. Unluckily for her, the Batmobile knocked her out. Next up is Two-Face, who doesn't have a great story to tell either, as he lost to Batman due to his penny obsession. Then we've got Killer Croc's story. Well, let's just say it falls a bit flat too.
And?
I threw a rock at him.
Next, we've got the Penguin, who goes full on explaining how he used birds to get bats, but ultimately failed. Finally, the Joker talks about his attempt by taking over a late-night talk show. However, Catwoman crashes the party, and Batman escapes using a sausage holder. Okay? Catwoman gets knocked out by Harley, and we're back to the present.
Didn't I say there's more than one way to get someone? Even as I speak, Catwoman is being trussed up at the Pussykins pet food factory.
But suddenly, Killer Croc stands up and reveals he's actually Batman. Surprise, surprise, turns out that the whole bar is full of undercover cops waiting to pack them to Arkham. That's crazy. After discovering the kitty's location, Bats dashes off to save her from becoming an expensive cat food by Harley. I already know what happens next. Bats saves her because he's the freaking Batman. The episode ends with Catwoman trying to unmask Batman, only to find he's pulled his signature disappearing act. She smiles and says, "Almost got him," as Bats glides away in the night sky. Ugh, I just got chills. It's so good.
And that maybe we'd have a place for each other without Gotham, without the freaks, maybe without masks.
Maybe.
Off balance. The next episode kicks off with Batman having a cozy little chat with his informant on top of the Statue of Freedom. When this guy, Twitch, is about to spill the beans of the shady group Society of Shadows, two goons show up, and poor Twitch is thrown into the water. When they try to escape, Batman manages to catch the goons, and just when he's about to start his questioning session, they kill themselves with some gas.
May the shadows live forever.
To solve the mystery, Batman meets up with the commissioner, who's having his practice session. He figures out the Society's target is a new ultrasonic drill from Wayne Enterprises. At the train station, we meet Vertigo, who has got this eye patch that makes everybody start hallucinating like they're in a different world. Right then, Batman shows up, but even he can't resist the crazy waves. Despite that, he starts throwing hands and almost gets an upper hand. However, a mysterious woman crashes the party, and making use of the opportunity, one of the goons knocks out the Dark Knight. Later, Batman tracks the goons to a spooky cathedral and bumps into the mysterious woman, who introduces herself as Talia. But before they can talk further, they're attacked again, and they both take a deep plunge. They wake up in a cell, and Batman discovers that Talia has removed his mask to treat his wound.
Easier to clean your wounds this way.
Then you know that I'm...
Hush.
She explains she's on a mission from her father to punish Vertigo, and both decide to team up for now. After a daring escape, they meet Vertigo and realize that he has set up the room with booby traps and more Vertigo waves. Batman convinces the girl to trust him, and using his senses, he guides them through, and finally they get out of it. They track down Vertigo to a bell tower who's trying to escape using a helicopter. He spots the duo and starts attacking using the drill. Talia, losing control over her senses, grabs onto the bell ropes, and the resulting sound sends Vertigo for a swim in the river. Just when you think it's over, Talia shows her true colors and steals the drill at gunpoint. Surprisingly, Batman gives her back along with a small gift inside as she flies off in her chopper. Talia tries to test it, only for it to start malfunctioning. She's frustrated, and her dad, who's watching via video call, is more impressed by Batman's sneaky move than being upset about the failed mission. By the way, her dad is Ra's al Ghul, the man who killed Batman. It's a rainy night in Gotham City, and we find a man frantically running through the streets as he steps on the newspaper with the headline, "Batman Slain." The man arrives at Thorne's house and introduces himself as Sidney Debris, the man who killed Batman. So this guy, Sidney, is an underdog crook who wants to move up in the underworld. In his last mission, he agrees to be a lookout, earning him the nickname Sid the Squid, which he proudly accepts.
We'll call you Sid the Squid.
Sid the Squid.
However, the goons only want to use him as bait if Batman shows up. Unfortunately for the poor squid, Batman does show up. They both start fighting, well, that's what the goons think, and Sidney accidentally slips off the roof, but Batman grabs his hand. However, Bats loses his grip and falls on a gas tank, causing an explosion. After this explosion, Sidney emerges with Batman's cape, which shocks the goons because they think that Batman is gone forever. They celebrate their victory over Batman and start treating Sidney with respect.
To Sid the Squid, the man who burned the bat.
Squid! Squid! Squid!
However, a fight breaks out between the gangs, which lands the goons in jail. Right then, Harley Quinn disguised as a lawyer bails out the poor Sidney, who has no clue what's going on. She takes Sidney to Joker, who's skeptical of Batman's death, and stages a heist to see if Batman's really gone. When Bats doesn't show up, Joker gets sad and depressed.
Only now, thanks to you, I have this terrible feeling he's really not coming.
So he goes back to his hideout. As a final goodbye to his dear friend, he throws a funeral and tries to kill Sid for finishing off his arch-rival.
Friends, today is the day the clown cried.
Now we're back to the present as he luckily escapes and runs to Thorn for help. But Thorn's not buying his story and takes out his pistol to finish him off. Then out of nowhere, Batman shows up completely fine and knocks out Thorn in a single punch. Turns out that the Dark Knight faked his death and was watching the whole time to catch the cartel. He explains that Sid's still in trouble, but hey, at least he'll be a big shot in prison. That's exactly what happens. He's sent to jail, just treated like a king, as he accomplishes his dream of becoming a top dog. Harley and Ivy. So it's your typical night in Gotham, and the Joker is on the run as he gets chased by Batman. Harley's driving the car, and let's just say her driving skills are about as good as Joker's jokes. After a disastrous outing, they somehow manage to slip away from Batman, but Joker is pissed off.
You presume to tell me what I should think is funny? In fact, when have you ever contributed a worthwhile idea to this gang?
So much so that he literally throws Harley out of his gang. Poor Harley's completely depressed, but for sure is not going down without a fight. So what does she do? She pulls off her own heist at the Gotham Museum of Natural History. Talk about proper revenge. At the museum, Harley manages to sneak in and was about to make off with a diamond, but that's when she bumps into Poison Ivy. The duo decide to team up and escape from the cops, with Harley improvising a chemical bomb. She takes Harley back to her hideout and gives her a pep talk. And just like that, they're friends.
I am not a doormat. Am I?
If you had a middle name, it would be Welcome.
The girls start robbing clubs, looting the city, and cause more chaos than Joker's done in a week. Meanwhile, Joker can't even find his own socks without Harley. Eventually, Harley realizes she can't forget her puddin' and calls in to check how he's doing.
What are you babbling about?
However, before that, they had another uninvited guest, Batman. But the girls trap him using the strange plant and dump him into a chemical pit. However, they meet their next surprise guest, Joker, who's come to collect his belongings. He tries to gas Ivy, but it doesn't work. She's immune to toxins. They start fighting, and the whole place ends up going up in flames as Batman and Joker come face to face. In the chaos, Batman manages to save himself and Joker, while Ivy and Harley make a run for it.
Whoops! Don't be me.
But their journey is cut short when the tires get shot, and they get arrested at gunpoint. So where does this leave these guys? Exactly. Right back at their home sweet home, Arkham Asylum. The episode ends with the Joker swearing that he'll take no women into his gang, while Harley's still hoping for a reconciliation with fresh dirt thrown right in her face by Ivy. Shadow of the Bat Part 1. Episode 57 starts off with Rupert Thorne getting arrested by Deputy Commissioner Gil Mason after receiving intel from a secret informer. Sounds great, right? Well, Bruce doesn't think so, as he finds something might be fishy. The next thing you know, Commissioner Gordon is also arrested for allegedly taking bribes. However, his daughter Barbara is not having it, is ready to prove her father to be completely innocent. The news reaches Batman, who doesn't believe that the commissioner is that sort of guy, so he starts to do his own investigation. He finds out that the documents were forged and conveys the info to the commissioner, who only wants his daughter to be safe.
I was wondering when you'd get around.
Later that day, he finds Barbara and tells her to stay out of the matter as she might get caught in the crossfire between the bigwigs. She asks Batman to attend a rally to support her father, but Batman rejects, saying rallies are not going to save her father. Damn. So what does a girl do when Batman won't show up to a rally? Become Batgirl, that's what. She shows up in her Batgirl costume to the rally. However, Mad Dog, along with his minions, start open fire on the crowd. But Barbara in her Batgirl costume jump in and show that she's really got some moves. Robin joins in on the party and almost unmasks her.
Are you crazy? You're lucky you didn't get killed.
Come on, they're getting away.
This is nuts.
The goons escape in separate ways, and Barbara sees the face on the goons, which is gonna be handy later on. Back in the manor, Dick finds out that Mason's got some suspiciously quick reflexes when the shooting happened. On the other side, Barbara spots Mad Dog chilling in Mason's apartment and realizes that Mason is part of the gang. The scene then shifts to Bruce, who's undercover under the identity of Matches Malone and follows a lead to an abandoned theater. And over there, he finds the one and only Two-Face.
Matches Malone, huh? Never heard of you. But there's something about you that I don't like.
He tries to bluff his way out, but Mad Dog knocks him out as Bats is taken to a secret location, Shadow of the Bat Part 2. Robin and Batgirl bump into each other on a rooftop. However, Robin is not pleased and asks her to back off, as this is no place for amateurs like her. But she refuses. Right then, Mason gets a call, and both spy using their separate ways before heading in different directions to the same location.
What's he saying?
Shh. Dork.
They end up in a secret subway and eavesdrop on the conversation where Two-Face reveals that his master plan of making Mason the new commissioner and becoming the mob boss of the city. Unfortunately, our heroes get spotted, and Two-Face decides to blast the tunnel with explosives. However, to make sure they don't escape, he floods the tunnel, making it impossible for the trio to find a way out. As the water level keeps rising, Batman opens a hole in the tunnel and sends Batgirl up with his grapple gun. But before the rest can climb up, the flood sweeps both Bats and Robin away. She calls the station, but it's already too late, as Gordon has been broken out of jail.
Get some keys down here! Never a blasted cop when you need one.
Meanwhile, in the tunnel, Batman and Robin pull off an escape using an old subway car like it's a theme park ride. They head to the wharf, where Gordon is held as a prisoner by Two-Face and his gang. As they prepare to execute the commissioner, Batgirl crashes the party with smoke grenades. Right then, Batman and Robin arrive just on time to clean up the mess. After seeing the chaos, Mason tries to escape, but Batgirl jumps and catches one of the ropes. During the tussle, Mason discovers that Batgirl is actually Barbara, and this realization is more than enough to knock him out. Nice. She manages to jump off the boat with Mason just before it crashes into the Statue of Freedom. The episode ends with Gordon reporting that Mason's still in a coma and gives Batgirl his approval to operate in Gotham City, with Bruce saying that there's always room for one more bat in the house, while Barbara hugs her father, his silicon soul. The next episode starts off with a bunch of criminals infiltrating the Cybertron warehouse to find some high-tech goods. But instead of some shiny loot, all they find is a strange crate with a Hardak logo on it. And from it comes Batman, who thrashes the goons one after the other. Now these goons, who aren't really the sharpest tools in the shed, give it their all, with one genius even managing to shoot Batman, only to reveal that Batman is actually a robot. Shocking, isn't it? Not really, but we'll get to that later. The Robo-Batman heads to Wayne Manor and confronts Alfred. However, poor Alfred nearly has a heart attack when he finds out that his master is actually a robot. Meanwhile, the real Batman shows up at a crime scene and is confused because apparently he caught some criminals, which he really didn't. Back at the manor, Robo-Batman is having an existential crisis as he believes that he's living being trapped in a robot body. After his meeting with the commissioner, the real Batman pays Rossum a visit at his farm and asks whether Hardak created any duplicates of him. But Rossum brushes it off, saying that the police confiscated all his equipment. Later that day, Robo-Batman shows up and begs for help to repair him. However, he tells him gently that he's just a robot with Batman's data. They're not memories.
Do you remember your first kiss? Your favorite song? The last time you tasted a really good steak?
No.
Right then, the real Batman shows up and they both fight, completely destroying the greenhouse. The confused robot heads to a police warehouse where he finds a crucial component that awakens his true purpose of carrying out Hardak's master plan, to replace all of humanity.
Shortly before self-destruction, Hardak created one final duplicate, an advanced prototype.
Back in the Batcave, it's showdown time, as the real Batman tries to sweet talk with the robot to stop carrying out his ridiculous plan. But the robot's like, no, as he proceeds to fight and pushes Batman off of a really high cliff. The robot thinks that it's killed Batman and realizes the dangers of Hardak's plan, destroying itself along with the Bat computer. As the dust settles, Batman, who's actually alive and kicking, ponders whether the robot had a soul of its own. The episode ends with the dialogue, a soul of silicon, but a soul nonetheless, showing that even the robot might have a spark of humanity. Read my lips. Episode 64 kicks off with a boxing match getting wrapped up as three goons decide it's the perfect time to play hide-and-go-seek with the prize money. They pull off the heist and vanish into thin air before the cops can even realize. Before you know it, they're on a crime spree, and the whole of Gotham City is under attack by these criminals. The news reaches Batman, and he talks with Commissioner Gordon, who's also confused about the nature of the criminals, since all they have is a video of the gang's latest heist.
Have pity on an old man's blood pressure.
In the Batcave, Bats reviews the footage and spots a tattoo on one of the perpetrators, who turns out to be Charles Rhino Daly. He tracks down Rhino and tries to squeeze some info out of him. However, the cops crash their party and they both part ways. But Bats decides to follow Rhino to his hideout, and it turns out he's working for this guy, Scarface, who's nothing but a puppet. No, literally, He's a freaking puppet. Later that day, he does some late-night snooping and confirms that Scarface is indeed just wooden strings. He confronts the ventriloquist behind Scarface and plants a bug on him. He also finds out that the ventriloquist and Scarface are two different personalities sharing a single body. Our hero falls for Scarface's trap and ends up getting tied over a pit of razor-sharp dummies, but Batman tricks him by creating distrust among the members, and even using his own ventriloquism skills to turn Scarface against the ventriloquist. In the end, Scarface gets more holes than Swiss cheese, as the old man cries in horror. The ventriloquist ends up in Arkham under supervision of the doctors who believe that he's cured. But surprise, surprise, he still has that same personality, as he secretly crafts a new body for his other half, the Worry Men. So, the final episode of Season 1 begins at a lavish party hosted by Veronica Vreeland, who is celebrating her arrival from South America. And among the guests is Bruce Wayne, who's introduced to the Worry Men, which are tiny dolls she brought from her trip. She explains that these figures absorb stress when placed under one's pillow, promising a peaceful sleep and a trouble-free day. Bruce jokingly asked whether she's fine up there, and accepts the doll as a gift.
In fact, the little darlings work their magic for me all day long. See?
As the party continues, Bruce catches a glimpse of a mysterious man watching through the skylight, so he goes out to confront the intruder, who shows off his agility and ball-throwing skills. However, their fight is cut short as a large suspended model comes loose, forcing Batman to choose between pursuing the intruder and saving the people. With no other option, he allows the mysterious man to escape and goes down to save the people. Later that night, Alfred notices that his master is quite tired and secretly places the Worrymen under his pillow. However, the following day, Bruce Wayne acts completely out of character, as he withdraws millions in cash only to discard it completely carelessly. On top of that, he has no memory of his actions, finds out that he's the only one who's suffering from it. As he connects the dots, it leads to Veronica, who's on a cruise ship. He finds her attempting to throw her suitcase into the water. He stops her, before the shaman reappears with his sidekicks. They start fighting, and Batman barely manages to fend off the attackers, but they escape when he starts to get the upper hand. After the shaman leaves, Veronica tries to throw out the Worrymen, but Batman stops her. He asks her about the seller, who she describes as a funny little man in a big straw hat, which makes Batman suspect the Mad Hatter.
And who knows how to warp the human mind better than Jervis Tetch, the Mad Hatter?
In the Batcave, Batman explains that the microchips are designed to influence the subconscious mind, which was the reason behind his behavior. He analyzes the torn piece of costume and traces the material to a costume supply factory. At the factory, Batman confronts the Mad Hatter, who reveals his plan of using Veronica's trip as a cover to fund his retirement. However, Batman finds himself cornered by Hatter's goons and also faces a lot of his enemies in doll form. And just when he was about to get guillotined, he triggers a sonic pulse that disables the mind control devices. Using this as an opportunity, he escapes from the trap and sends the Hatter flying with a powerful kick. The episode ends with the Mad Hatter tossing and turning around as he struggles to sleep peacefully, with a Dark Knight doll tucked under his pillow. Talk about irony.
He went galumphing back.
Season 2, Sideshow. The first episode kicks off with Killer Croc being taken into a train through a forest in Gotham City. He chomps down his chains and tries to escape, but before he makes it out, he gets shot with a tranquilizer dart. Unfortunately for Mr. Croc, the Dark Knight is already there. They both start fighting, and Croc falls from the moving train, pulling Batman along with him. He tries to crush Batman with a big rock, but he misses and walks away. And he falls. Oof. When Bats finally wakes up, he starts tracking down Croc through the forest. However, Croc manages to trap Batman by destroying the tree bridge, leaving him hanging off the cliff. After sabotaging Batman's path, Croc happily takes a couple of jumps to cross the waterfall, but ends up falling and gets fished out by a seal boy named Billy. Billy introduces him to his ex-carnival friends, Goliath the Giant, Richard the Hunchback, and finally May and June the conjoined twins. These kind souls take Croc in, thinking that he's just like one of them. What does Croc do? He plays along, helping them with chores and spinning tales about his circus days, like how he was treated like an animal.
Our circus days are over. We used the money we earned to buy this farm so we could live in peace.
During dinner time, Croc asks about whether they've got any money, to which Goliath the Giant leaks the information that they've got 50 grand, much to Richard's dismay. It's fishy. Very fishy. At night, Croc starts searching for the money, and he finds it. He's tempted to grab it, but something holds him back. Is that empathy? No, it couldn't be, right?
but it's great. It really is. No one stares at you, laughing, making you feel bad. You can be yourself.
Just when things were getting cozier for Croc, Batman shows up and the fight begins. He manages to convince his new friends that Batman's the bad guy who treated him like an animal, and believing his story, they toss the bat in the cage. However, Croc doesn't just want Batman to be caged, he wants him killed, which spooks the carnival folk. They ask him to stop his rampage, but Croc refuses, and long story short, Croc loses his cool and locks them up too. He brings out a gun to finish Batman once and for all, but both Batman and the carnival crew manage to escape just in time.
But you can't kill him. He's still a human being.
Who are you calling human?
Croc flees and tries to break into a house to hide, but eventually the heroes catch up to him, smush him between a wheel and a mill, and get the cops over to take him away. Billy asks Croc why he turned on them, and after some deep and philosophical thinking, Croc gives a profound answer that he was just being himself. Episode 2, A Bullet for Bullock, starts with Detective Harvey Bullock having a really bad day. I mean, a really, really bad day, as he nearly gets run over by a car. He responds by shooting at the car, which, you guessed it, misses. I mean, what was his plan? If it hit, would he lose his job? So feeling a bit desperate that someone is trying to take him out, he decides to call Batman for help. He lights up the bat signal and spills the beans about someone trying to off him. Even Batman gets surprised, knowing that this guy is asking for his help. However, after listening to his sad story, he agrees.
Watch it, freak. I never took a dime from nobody. I just bend the rules a little sometimes. You understand?
Meanwhile, Bullock's landlord is frustrated by his behavior and tries to convince Bullock that his messy habits are spoiling the apartment. But Bullock brushes it off, triggering the landlord. Now the scene shifts to Bullock, who's chasing some bank criminals, and our boy almost gets shot. But fortunately, Bats does save him. But things only get wilder from here as someone pushes him into the subway. Luckily, Bullock narrowly escapes. At this point, even Batman's scratching his head, wondering who's behind this grumpy detective.
Well, you're sure full of holiday spirit. What are you doing for New Year's?
Same thing I did for Christmas. My laundry.
After some detective work, Batman thinks that he's cracked it. He thinks that the man who's after him is Vincent the Shark Starkey, an old friend of Bullock. Both Bullock and Batman track him down, and after a scuffle with him that goes about as smoothly as Bullock's diet plan, it turns out that he's not the guy. So he heads back to his house, only to be confronted by a man in a mask who threatens to kill him. But luckily, Bats jumps in and saves Bullock once again. The masked man turns out to be none other than his landlord, who really despised Bullock so much that they had to take him down. In the end, Bullock thanks Batman for saving his life. I know, I'm as shocked as you are. And Batman, he just disappears into the night in his signature way.
Why wouldn't you get out? You and your late hours and your filthy habits.
Trial. Alright, the next episode kicks off with Poison Ivy being sent back to Arkham Asylum, which doesn't sit well with Janet Van Dorn, Gotham's new district attorney. She's pushing for life imprisonment, but her hands are tied because Batman was the one who caught Ivy. So she goes on TV and basically calls Batman a menace, saying he's created all these super criminals and made Gotham dependent on him. Later that day, she's at a dinner date with Bruce, and he brings about the topic of Batman. She gets annoyed, and walks out after receiving a call. However, Bruce finds out that Janet has been kidnapped and rushes to rescue her. Unfortunately, he gets captured too. They both wake up in Arkham, but it's not your average day at the asylum. The inmates have completely taken over with the help of Mad Hatter.
Welcome to Arkham, Van Dorn.
Two-Face.
Don't bother screaming for help.
Now, Janet is tasked to listen to what they say, but here's the twist. She has to defend her client in front of the inmates. And who's the lucky client? It's Batman. To top it off, even the stakes are high. If she wins, they both go free. If she loses, they're both dead. Talk about a killer deal. The duo are brought to the courtroom with the Joker as the judge, Two-Face as a prosecutor, and a jury including Poison Ivy, Harley Quinn, Scarecrow, and some others.
We're all freaks and monsters. And who made us this way? Batman!
As the trial starts, Janet starts to see things differently. She picks apart the villain's stories and exposes that they're the real reason behind their crimes, not Batman. As Mad Hatter claims Batman made him a criminal, Janet gets him to admit he was obsessed with his girlfriend before Batman came along.
I'd have killed her first!
Oh, I'd like that last statement stricken from the record, please.
Record? Is someone supposed to be writing this down?
Or when Poison Ivy rants about her crimes, Janet shows how deep her obsession with plants really is.
Ha! You're just jealous because you don't have a fella who's as loving and loyal to you as my pudding is to me.
Surprisingly, the jury finds Batman not guilty, but the Joker, being the Joker, decides to execute Batman and Janet anyway. Just when he was about to unmask Batman, Janet remembers the batarang she had and uses it as a distraction to escape. The two duck and dodge every crazed inmate that they can to escape, but Joker manages to meet the two at the very last moment. Batman manages to take him down, just as always. Finally, Gordon and the police finally arrive to restore order, as Janet and Batman realize that they kind of understand each other. They both want the same thing: a Gotham that doesn't need Batman. But for now, she realizes that having him is for the better. Episode 10, Bane, kicks off with Bane rolling into Gotham and going straight to meet his employer, Rupert Thorne, who's hired him to get rid of the bat problem from the city. Now look, this guy, Bane's not your average meathead. No, he actually has got brains to match his biceps. Instead of charging blindly, he decides to study Batman's moves, and wow, it works like a charm.
You see, I'm the one who had you hired.
Then I owe you something special.
He follows Killer Croc, who's on the run from Batman and Robin, and decides to use him as a punching bag to show Batman who the real deal is. Also, he decides to make the Batmobile a floor mat. And yeah, let's just say that Bats is not impressed. Later, he decides to visit Killer Croc in Arkham to know more about the new guy in Gotham City. After some convincing and a lot of threatening, Croc spills the beans about Bane having a South American accent with strange tubes in his head.
How do these traction things work?
When my bones heal, I'll show you firsthand. Okay.
Back at the Batcave, Batman realizes that Bane's connected to Project Gilgamesh, a super soldier program from a Cuban prison. He also figures out that Thorne's behind it all because who else has enough cash to hire a super assassin? Meanwhile, Bane and Candace start plotting to overthrow Thorne, which Robin manages to get a recording of.
With Batman out of the way, Gotham could be yours. So could I.
And what about your employer?
However, Bane finds it and knocks him out. He uses Robin as bait to lure out bats to the Rose's Thorn. Back in the ship, Robin is chained as the water level keeps rising. Bats arrives at the scene, and the fight starts. At first, Bats gets the upper hand as he blows away Bane with his harpoon gun. Using this opportunity, he quickly helps Robin out and successfully rescues him. However, Bane, who has come for his second round, pushes Robin back into the water. They fight again, and this time Bane's all over Batman while Candace plays with Robin in the water. And just when it looks like Bane's about to snap Batman like a twig, Bats throws a batarang into Bane's venom control. He starts inflating like an angry muscular balloon before Batman pulls the plug, leaving him deflated. Meanwhile, Robin manages to teach Candace a lesson or two about fighting as she runs back to her master. In the end, Batman drops off Bane at Thorne's office along with a recording of his secretary. Because Batman's not just a fighter, he's also one of the boys. As he leaves, Thorne yells at his secretary, and who knows what happened next? Maybe kicked her out of the job, or something even worse. Episode 11, Baby Doll, starts off with a man leaving the theater only to stumble upon a sobbing blonde girl. Being the nice guy he is, he tries to help her out, but plot twist, it's a trap, and our boy Brian gets knocked out. But who's the girl? We'll know more about her soon. Meanwhile, Batman and Robin are playing detective, looking into disappearing actors from an old sitcom called Love That Baby. See, it's your normal classic American family sitcom, but much worse than you're thinking. It turns out the little blonde girl that knocked out poor Brian was none other than Mary Doll, who was the star of the show, who also has a disorder that makes her permanently appear like a very young girl.
As the adorable Baby Doll, young Mary quickly captured the hearts of millions.
However, right when they're piecing things together, Mary goes after her next target, Tammy Vance, who was also part of the show. Batman and Robin arrive on the scene, but Baby Doll pulls the damsel in distress move, forcing them to crash. After a smokescreen attempt, Bats is convinced that Baby Doll is the culprit, but he still can't understand why.
Hold it.
Naughty Mr. Batmans. You play too rough.
So he goes to Summer Gleason to discuss Baby Doll's beef with her fellow co-stars. Gleason tells them that she quit the show when a new character, Cousin Spunky, stole her spotlight, started doing dramatic acting. However, she was so good at acting that she eventually lost her job. Meanwhile, Baby Doll is setting up a twisted birthday party for a kidnapped family, and when one of the actors tries to leave, he gets smacked. Poor guy just wanted to call his lawyer. Back in the Batcave, Batman and Robin start looking for old episodes to get an idea about what she's up to. After suffering through a lot of episodes, Bats figures out Baby Doll's next move. She kidnaps Spunky and takes him to her hideout and plans to reenact the birthday episode, but with a cake that's more boom than yum.
Mr. Happyhead says you're really gonna get it now.
Just when the place was literally about to blow up, Spunky throws the dynamite away, and surprise, surprise, Spunky's actually Robin, and Bats joins in on the party. She whips out her machine gun that's disguised as a rag doll, but Batman swoops in to save the day. As Batman deals with her bodyguard, she makes a run for it in her tricycle to an amusement park. After dealing with this bodyguard, Bats follows her, and the final showdown goes down in the House of Mirrors. She sees her reflection as an adult woman and the life that she never got to live. She starts shooting at the mirrors, eventually breaking down in tears. So Batman embraces her and gently takes away her weapon, as Baby Doll clings to his leg sobbing, "I didn't mean to." Even the Dark Knight can't help but feel for her.
There I am. But it's not really real, is it?
Harley's Holiday. Harley Quinn is super excited because she's finally getting out of Arkham. Letting her out is definitely not a great idea. Right then, Batman and Robin drop off Scarecrow at the asylum and tell Harley to behave properly. Of course, they can't resist adding a "stay out of trouble, Harley," to which she responds back, "Don't worry, I'll show everyone how sane I am starting tomorrow."
Hi, Professor Crane.
Good evening, child.
Worship me, fools! Worship me!
The next day, Harley's out skating with her hyenas. Not a sight you would often see, and rightfully people are freaking the hell out. But Harley, being Harley, thinks it's because of her outfit. She goes shopping along with her hyenas and bumps into Bruce Wayne at the shop. She almost figures out that he's Batman, but doesn't quite get there.
Something about that chin. I know! You're Bruce Wayne, the boy billionaire!
However, Veronica jumps in, and Harley leaves to buy a dress. But she forgets to take off the security tag, and the guard asks her to give back the dress to remove the tag. Harley panics, thinking that she's in trouble, and ends up stealing Bruce's car with Veronica inside. The news reaches Veronica's dad, who's a big shot general, and wants the police to do something. The police chief says to be patient, but the general secretly calls in the army.
Back off, rich boy! I'm armed!
Meanwhile, Bats figures out Harley's the type of girl who will hide behind someone shady, and wow, he's right. She goes to a guy called Boxy Bennett and asks for his help with a kiss. Boxy agrees with the condition of using Veronica as ransom. However, Harley refuses. Right then, Batman and Robin show up, and Harley runs off with Veronica, with Boxy following behind her. While they're driving, Veronica says she won't press charges if Harley lets her go, and Harley's glad to hear it. However, much to their surprise, Veronica's papa starts chasing in a tank, which spooks her, forcing her to escape. They end up trapped in the theater district, and all the four vehicles collide with each other. Luckily, the girls manage to escape, and Harley drops Veronica to Robin as she tries escaping from Batman. She almost escapes, but Bats catches her, telling her not to throw away her freedom.
I didn't even get to keep my new dress! And I actually paid for it!
They fight on a rooftop, but Harley ends up hanging from a billboard. Later, Bats saves her and takes her back to Arkham, where a doctor tells Harley that she might get out soon since Veronica has not pressed charges against her. She asks Batman why he cares about her when she's always the one causing trouble. And Bats, being a generous hero, replies saying that he understands people wanting a normal life. As a goodbye gift, he gives her the dress she tried to buy, and Harley kisses him before heading back to her cell as Ivy watches her enviously.
Call me.
Don't press your luck.
Episode 19, Deep Freeze, kicks off with a robot breaking into Arkham Asylum and snatching up Mr. Freeze faster than you can say. Back in the Batcave, Batman suspects that Mr. Freeze was taken forcefully against his will and thinks there's more to this icy story. They meet Carl Rosum and ask about the robot that took away Mr. Freeze, and he immediately recognizes it, pointing the duo to Grant Walker, a theme park mogul. Now the scene shifts to Walker's latest creation, Oceana, which is an artificial island in Gotham City.
Impressive.
Impressive? You gaze upon all this and can only say impressive?
Right then, Walker introduces himself to Mr. Freeze and presents him with a new Freezer suit. But Freeze is not impressed and asks Walker what he wants from him, to which Walker replies, immortality. He explains that he wants to replicate a similar accident that made Freeze a cool immortal being. However, Freeze refuses and gives a cold shoulder to Walker. But then, Walker pulls out his ultimate trump card, Nora, Freeze's beloved wife, who is still alive in her cryo tube. After seeing his wife, he agrees in exchange for his wife's custody.
The GothCorp execs think she perished in the fire, but my men got her out. I have the technology to restore her, my friend.
Meanwhile, Batman and Robin show up at Oceana, but get captured by Walker's robots. They're taken to the laboratory, and Freeze successfully turns Walker into a discount version of himself. After Walker leaves the lab, Freeze has a change of heart after a pep talk from Batman where he questions how his wife would feel about the actions of her husband. Hearing that, he frees them, and the trio team up to stop Walker's evil plan. They destroy his robots, and Freeze traps Walker in a huge chunk of ice. As Oceana begins to sink, Freeze chooses to stay behind with Nora, but Bats is against it. He freezes Robin's lower half to make sure Batman doesn't try to get in his way. The episode ends with Walker trapped under the sea as a popsicle for eternity, while Freeze, along with his wife Nora, drift in the ocean, proving that love can indeed be eternal.
We're together again, my love.
Batgirl returns. Alright, the final episode of Season 2 starts off with Barbara having a heck of a dream, as she dreams of saving Batman who's surrounded by a bunch of villains. She saves him, and as a reward, Batgirl is about to get a bat kiss, but Dick and his pizza invitation spoils her wonderful fantasy.
Barbara! Hey!
She turns down the invitation, saying that she has to study or her commissioner father will put her in jail. Right then, she learns about the stolen statue and thinks that breaks aren't so bad after all. She goes to the crime scene and runs into Catwoman, who claims to be innocent. Before they can sort it out, Robin crashes the party, which sends the kitty running.
That's not my style. No finesse. See?
The next day, Barbara gets a secret message like she's in a spy movie from Catwoman. Later that day, they meet up and strike a deal on the condition that if Catwoman is found lying, she should surrender to the cops. The girls start their interrogation that leads to a bar fight, catching the attention of the cops. After a motorcycle chase, they find out that Roland Daggett's behind it all, because in Gotham, it's always the rich guy or the costume freak.
How's about spending one of your 9 lives with me?
Crawl back in your litter box, creep.
At the lab, the girls fall right into his trap, as Daggett's prepared for everything this time. He tells them it was because of Batman that he had to steal the statue to cover his legal expenses from the previous encounters. And also drops the bombshell that he stole the kitty statue to blame the girl dressed like a kitty who also loves kitties. I hope that wasn't confusing. He did it to frame Catwoman. Right then, in comes Robin to save the girls by kicking down the goons. As they fight, Daggett runs away with the statue, and Selina shows her true colors as she goes after the Jade Cat. She nearly drops Daggett into a vat of acid as revenge, but Batgirl's like, hold on, as she wants the law to deal with him. In the end, Barbara manages to get her hands on the statue, and the Catwoman is finally arrested.
And the cops are a joke, especially that senile fool, Gordon.
We had a deal, remember?
But the kitty does manage to escape from the cops and even takes away their guns. Robin's ready for round 2, but Batgirl, who's learned a lesson or two about cats, stops him, saying, don't worry, they'll meet again. With that, Season 2 of the series comes to an end. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Also, if you guys are wondering about Batman and Robin and the new Batman adventures, we'll be covering those separately in our upcoming videos. So subscribe to stay tuned so you don't miss out. And don't forget to comment down below your favorite character from the series, excluding Batman, because everybody loves Batman, obviously. I hope you all have a great day, and we'll see you next time. See ya!